I've always been the kind of person who loved affection without trying to hide it. If my boyfriend walked past me, I'd reach for his hand. If we were watching a movie, I'd lean against his shoulder before the opening credits even finished. I asked for hugs when I had a bad day, stole quick kisses whenever he looked especially handsome, and sent him random messages just to remind him I missed him. I knew I could be clingy sometimes, but to me, love was something you expressed openly rather than quietly keeping to yourself. Daniel never seemed to mind. At least, that was what I believed. He would smile when I wrapped my arms around him from behind while he cooked dinner, laugh when I interrupted his video games just to kiss his cheek, and tease me about how I treated every goodbye as though we were leaving for months instead of a normal workday. His reactions always felt warm enough that I never questioned whether I was asking for too much. Then one evening everything changed with a single glance at his computer screen. He had stepped away to answer a phone call, leaving his laptop open on the dining table. I wasn't trying to invade his privacy. I simply wanted to close the lid before our cat jumped onto the keyboard. As I reached toward it, the title of a discussion forum caught my eye. "What do you do when your girlfriend is too dependent?" My heart stopped. I knew I shouldn't read any further. I knew the post might not even belong to him. But curiosity defeated common sense. I looked down. The first sentence began with words that felt painfully familiar. "My girlfriend constantly asks for hugs and kisses." My chest tightened. The next line mentioned how she always wanted reassurance, loved holding hands in public, and became visibly disappointed whenever he seemed distracted. Every sentence sounded like it had been written about me. I didn't continue reading. I couldn't. I quietly closed the laptop and walked into the bedroom before he returned. That night I barely spoke. Daniel noticed immediately. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just tired." He accepted the answer, but inside I replayed those words over and over again. Too dependent. I had never seen myself that way. I had simply believed I was affectionate. For the next several days, I changed without telling him why. I stopped asking for kisses. I no longer reached for his hand while we walked. When he came home from work, I greeted him politely instead of running into his arms. If he hugged me first, I hugged him back. Otherwise, I kept my distance. At first, he didn't seem to notice. Then, gradually, something shifted. One evening we sat together watching television, leaving an unusual amount of space between us. After several minutes, he muted the screen. "Did I ask you something? Sure. Did I do something wrong?" I looked at him. "No. You barely touched me all week." I laughed awkwardly. "I didn't think you'd notice. Of course I noticed." He reached for my hand instinctively before realizing I had tucked it beneath a blanket. "You've been different." I hesitated. Finally I whispered, "I saw the post." His expression immediately changed. "What post? The one about having a girlfriend who's too dependent." His eyes widened. "Oh." Neither of us spoke for several seconds. "I wasn't supposed to read it," I admitted. "No, but I did." He sighed deeply. "I wish we'd had this conversation another way. So it was about me." He nodded slowly. "It was." I looked down at the floor. "I didn't realize I was exhausting you." He moved closer. "You weren't exhausting me. Then why write it?" He took a long breath before answering. "Because I was confused." I frowned. "About what?" "I've never dated someone who expresses affection the way you do." I remained silent. I wasn't complaining. He continued. I was asking strangers whether I was handling it correctly. I looked back at him. "What do you mean?" He smiled sheepishly. "I grew up in a family that almost never hugged." That surprised me. "My parents loved each other," he explained, "but they rarely showed it physically. So when you ask for 10 hugs a day, part of me loves it, and another part wonders whether I'm giving you enough." I blinked. "I thought you wanted less." He laughed softly. "I was worried you needed more than I knew how to give." The misunderstanding suddenly felt almost unbelievable. I spent the whole week trying not to bother you, and I spent the whole week wondering why you seemed unhappy." We both laughed at the same time. Then his expression became serious again. "I'm sorry you saw that before I talked to you. I'm sorry I read something private." He squeezed my hand gently. "I should have communicated better, and I should have asked instead of assuming the worst." For a while, we simply sat together in comfortable silence. Eventually, he smiled. So, can I have one of those hugs I've apparently been missing all week?" I laughed through tears before wrapping my arms around him. "This one? Exactly that one." He held me a little tighter than usual. "You know," he whispered, "I don't think you're too dependent. No, I think you just love differently." I smiled against his shoulder. "And that's okay. It's more than okay." Over the following months, we learned something important about each other. I became more aware that not everyone naturally expressed affection as openly as I did, while Daniel became more comfortable initiating hugs, kisses, and small moments of closeness instead of waiting for me to ask. Neither of us changed who we were. We simply learned to understand the language the other person spoke. Looking back, I realized how easily fear can fill the empty spaces left by unanswered questions. A few sentences on a computer screen had almost convinced me that I was unwanted when the truth was much more ordinary. Relationships are rarely damaged by differences alone. They struggle most when assumptions replace honest conversations. Sometimes the answer isn't becoming less affectionate or pretending not to need reassurance. Sometimes it's simply having the courage to ask, listen, and discover that the person sitting across from you